Hi, my name is Enoch Kang. For this video, I wanted to share some tips and tricks that I used when I was making my IB Visual Arts HL process portfolio. The problem is, it's quite simple, really. I think as art students, we are all like very visually stimulated creators. When we see something that looks just visually uninteresting, we just sort of turn off and we don't really want to work on it. Something that I think is really sad for the process portfolio is that it becomes a piece of mandatory documentation that no one really wants to put the effort in. They only require us to make a set amount of slides with a sort of documentation style. And so there becomes this negative cycle where you don't put in that much effort into your process portfolio, and then it looks uninteresting and you think, wow, this is really boring, I don't want to work more on it, and then it just keeps continuing, and then in the end, like, your deadline approaches and you're like, oh no, I need to make a process portfolio. And I've seen this happen with quite a few of my peers. So I'm proposing a solution here. This is what I did personally. First of all, incrementally worked on my process portfolio. So with every single piece that I was working on, I would be working on the process portfolio of that piece. And because it was separated into piece by piece, I had more time to work on less content, which meant higher quality in terms of not just the content, but also like in terms of visual. I think this is really important for myself, that once I saw that I could make my process portfolio look good, then I became much more stimulated to work on it even more, and then I began to enjoy the process. So the proposed solution I have is to find a way to make your process portfolio feel like even a piece of its own. So we get into the second part, which I want to talk about the direct steps that I took to implement this solution for myself. So one of the main things was building the habit of documentation. So sort of like muscle memory. I make something and it could be like 2 or 3 hours of progress, and then I know, okay, I should be recording this. This is something that I think some people have struggled with because they think, oh, well, it interrupts my creative flow. The idea of stopping in the middle of creating to like record something, that feels very intrusive to the overall creative flow. Yeah, I can understand that, but my argument is that the act of documentation can be practiced to the point where you'll be able to do it almost subconsciously. So it does not take up any mental capacity, which I think, first of all, it shortens the time it requires, and second of all, it's much, much less intrusive. The second thing that really helped me out was having a modular layout. I actually started out by defining a sort of template that I wanted for every single slide to have, and this helps with the consistency of the overall piece. Having the consistency in my work, it really makes it much more easier for people to read, and also for myself, I can just duplicate my templates and I just need to change the content for making future slides, and that saves me so much time. So define your layout, that's one of the first steps. This next point sort of goes along with the modular layout point. I would make the layout first, and then I go in and I put the pictures in, and then I put the text in. The same amount of content should be able to expand and contract to a certain degree where you can use that to help you fill up the visual space. And then the next thing is making rules and then breaking them for emphasis. You have this grid system, you've established this with your reader, they see this, they understand what's going on with every single page, they know where the headers are, they know what the point is, and then they go, oh, there's a circle there. So then they put more attention to it, and then that's where you can use it to like shine more light on your point. And then accessibility and readability, I think this one is very interesting because our slides are generally quite wide. They're like a 16:9 ratio, or like a 3:4 or 4. It's wide. And what I see people do is they have a text block that spans the whole page, and that's not readable. When do you ever see this in a magazine? I would use magazines as an example because they've perfected the craft of editing. If there's anyone that knows how to edit words and images together in harmony, it is magazines. Go look at magazines. You will not find a single magazine where they stretch a body of text the width of a page. It is unreadable. It becomes really hard to track. I will never have a text box that is wider than half my page, my slide. In general, when I want to go through points quickly, I have tiny, slim columns. You can combine them, you can have more of them, and this is what they do in magazines as well. When in doubt, go look at professionals, and this applies to everything else as well. Go look at how professionals do it, see how they solve the problems you have right now, and you'll be able to reverse engineer, and you'll see, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense, you know? And look at more things, take more references, and see how people do it properly. Annotations and captions, this is sort of like a pet peeve of mine. I really hate arrows that go across the page. So what I generally do, I use points. I put the point where the point of interest is, and then I label it. Last thing, this is like a little trick. Color palettes. In my piece, I used a lot of like color palettes. First of all, I used it for negative space, a little space to like let the readers breathe. We don't need to have text everywhere. And I generated this with Canva's free color palette generator, and it'll be linked in the description below. This is like a really useful tool. I usually just take a screenshot and then I just upload it. Boom, boom, boom. It's easy. It's very quick. You can use this also just to like define the colors for your general layout. And then this brings us to the last part of the video. I want to talk about the necessity and the practicality of making a process portfolio. When you're making your process portfolio, and if you work on it incrementally, like I suggested, you should be able to sort of reflect on every single step and then every single piece you make. You're constantly thinking and you're constantly rethinking your goals, and it's like an iterating process. Because of that, my artwork has become, I think, a lot better than it was before. And then the other point, you're conscious of the flow of ideas. And what the process portfolio does is it makes you conscious of, oh, these ideas came from here. And you have it written down so that when you go further down the line and you're making something really cool and you think, well, something here really, really works. I want more of this. You can go back and say, oh, so that's where I got it from. And then you can look for, okay, I want more of this specifically. And then you'll be able to find a lot of more relevant, higher quality information for you in a shorter amount of time. For myself, like more specifically my 3D piece at the end, I was able to go back and I said, okay, these were the models that really inspired me. So what kind of style did they use here? What kind of textures was this? What kind of pose, blah, blah, blah. And I did a lot of studies on these. I looked at all the Link amiibos. I looked at all the toy figures that I was really inspired from. But because I knew specifically which one, I was able to pinpoint the exact texture that they used, the exact lighting that they used, the exact colors that they use, the exact poses. And then I can say, okay, I can use all of this so it informs my own decisions in my own piece. I think that's the importance of this process portfolio, being conscious of your ideas, being conscious of what you're making, being efficient with your improvement. I think those are the three main segments that I wanted to talk about in today's video. I want everyone to be able to enjoy making their process portfolio and treat it like its own piece. There's also another practical reason you should be invested in this, because it is a piece of exam work and I think it takes up quite a high percentage of your final grade. If you want to see the full process portfolio, it's available down in the link below. Yeah, that's the video. There's going to be more papers to come, and I hope this was informative, and I'll see you next time.